Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back to Breaking the Silence. I'm Renee.
And I'm Kelly.
And if you are new here, we are so glad you're here with us. Before we jump in, go grab your favorite cup of coffee, tea, or whatever you prefer. Get cozy and just settle in with us for a little bit. And let's just chat. Picture Kelly and I sitting across the table from you. No judgment, no shame, just honest conversation that helps us heal. So, there are certain questions people ask over and over again about avoidance. And today we're talking about another one of the big ones, and that is, do avoidants miss you?
Mm.
Maybe the relationship ended and now they're silent. There's no texts, no calls, no checking in. Meanwhile, you're sitting there wondering, did they ever really care? Am I the only one hurting? Have they already moved on? If you've ever asked yourself those questions, you are not alone. We have absolutely been there, and today we're going to answer them. And it's not to give you false hope, not to convince you to wait for someone who isn't showing up, but because understanding creates clarity. And clarity helps us stop blaming ourselves and move forward.
I think the question comes from such a painful place because silence feels like an answer. And I think you and I know we've had this conversation before, and then just the stories that you can make up in your head that probably make it 1,000 times worse. And it it's crippling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It does. And honestly, I think silence is an answer. It just may not be the answer we think it is. A lot of us hear silence and immediately assume, well, I guess they never cared. I don't necessarily think that's true. Someone can care about you, someone can miss you, someone can even love you and still choose silence. But here's what silence is telling you. For whatever reason, they're not showing up. Whether that's because of fear, shame, emotional immaturity, avoidance, or simply a choice they're making, the result is still the same. They're not choosing the conversation. They're not choosing repair. They're not choosing to work through what happened. And while we can absolutely have compassion for the wounds that may be driving the behavior, we also have to pay attention to the behavior itself. Because healthy relationships aren't built on what someone might be feeling. They're built on how two people consistently show up for one another. So today, I don't want us spending this whole conversation trying to read someone else's mind. I want us to understand attachment, but I also want us to learn to pay attention to actions. Because actions tell us whether someone is ready and willing to build a healthy relationship. Kelly, when someone asks you, do you think they miss me?
Mhm.
What do you think they're really asking underneath that?
Well, I've been there. So I think you just want that validation. And honestly, I don't think you can answer that for somebody because, I mean, you can answer in a way you want them to make feel better about themselves, or have some closure. But I mean, do we really know? We don't know what the other person is thinking. And I have been in those shoes, and it just seems like, again, I've been on both sides. And when I'm on this side of the person that was like ghosting me or whatever, it just is so hard to feel like everything we had was a lie. And you want to believe, I'm sure they miss me. How can you be human and not even miss that person? But by their actions, and even if you clinically understand and you feel like you have all the answers, you don't fully know. And they may tell you when you break down and reach out to them, I do miss you. I've heard this. I do miss you. How could I not? But I'm like, your actions don't indicate that at all. And so I feel like even they are telling you what you want to hear to make yourself feel better. So yeah, I guess I would just have to be like, I don't know. I'm sure they do. And for XYZ, maybe these are the reasons you're not getting that response. But it's so hard to realize it's them. It's not me, it's them,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a hard one. It's very hard. It's very hard to be on the receiving end of not receiving.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times what they're really asking is, did any of it matter? Was our relationship real? Was I loved? Even did I matter, And those are the questions underneath the question. So let's answer the big one right away. Do avoidants miss you?
Mhm.
The answer is many of them do. But here's what people often misunderstand: missing someone and having the emotional capacity to reconnect are two completely different things. And I want to say that again because it is so important. Missing someone and having the emotional capacity to reconnect are not the same thing. Someone can think about you, they can miss you, love you, grieve the relationship, and still not know how to build a healthy relationship. And that's where attachment comes in. So let's talk about why, because I know if you've been around here, you've heard it, but for new people, I still always want to at least go over it a little bit. So avoidant attachment isn't about not having emotions. It's about what someone learned to do with their emotions. And many avoidants grew up believing that depending on people wasn't safe. Maybe emotions were dismissed. Maybe they had to grow up too quickly. Maybe vulnerability wasn't welcomed. So they adapted. I'll handle it myself. I don't need anyone. Maybe they said, I'll keep my feelings to myself. Those patterns often follow them in to adulthood. So when a relationship ends, their first response isn't always to sit with their grief. Their nervous system often wants relief before reflection because it's too painful and uncomfortable to sit with their feelings or reflection. They're just overwhelmed by it. And not because they ever cared, but because distraction feels safer than sitting with painful emotions. I don't know, Kelly, do you have any thoughts that you want to share about any of that?
Um, I think I'm just going from my own reflection. I think all these things are eye-opening to not just feel, and it's so funny because again, I said I've been on both sides of this. I think if you already have abandonment issues, I think this just intensifies that. Because again, just from personal, I've been on both sides of this. And I think I think with that healing, because all these things kind of take it off of you, the receiver of this, the reasons why. But sometimes even the reasons why are still hard to, like, oh, that's why. Okay, well, I don't hurt now and I'm not sad. And, it did mean something. It is just a learning process.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Because,
go ahead.
no, because I think it can make you, lack of better words, feel just crazy because you think that person, for me, I was like, how can they be so cruel? Or, this didn't mean anything to them. So again, I think all these things are good to be able to reflect on to kind of have an understanding. But yeah, it's still difficult.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think you can still very much have, like I said, have compassion for someone's wounds and fully understand why it is happening. And it can still hurt. That doesn't take, it can be both. Like,
Right.
yes, it still hurts you. And you see why they do it and have compassion for it too, you know? So I think that's a super good point. Um, I think one of the hardest things for people to understand is that relief and grief can exist at the same time. So like an avoidant can feel relief because the pressure of intimacy is gone, but that doesn't automatically mean that they don't also miss the person. Those two things can exist together. Now, let's talk specifically about dismissive avoidance for a moment and fearful avoidance, because I don't think they always process the loss the same way. Dismissive avoidance often suppress emotions for much longer. Sometimes they don't fully feel the loss until months later. Once life slows down, once the distractions fade, once maybe they realize no one is texting them good morning anymore, no one is asking how their day went, that's when the feelings sometimes begin to surface. With fearful avoidance, I feel like it can look different. They often miss someone much sooner. And I thought about this part a lot. And I'll just sort of put this out there. And Kelly, you sort of let me know what you think from your perspective too, because I really sort of went back and forth on this part. But I'm just going to share what my thoughts were, and we'll go with it. I think that there can be times that they both want to reach out. I think that is typical for the dismissive and the fearful. But I think there can also be the piece where the fear takes over. Um, Maybe both of them are thinking, what if I get rejected? I think for the fearful avoidant, it would probably be more that they might also be starting to think, what if I end up in the same cycle? Or what if I get hurt again? I don't know so much that the dismissive avoidant is thinking that way. They're not really, I mean, they might sort of see their pattern or how things are for them typically, but I don't know if they're really, well, maybe they are. Maybe they're thinking like, I want to do this, but I just know myself. I know how it normally ends, you know?
Mm.
So, anyways, they find themselves wanting connection, both of them, fearful and dismissive, and running from it at the same time. So, now here's another question we often hear. which sort of ties into what we're talking about. If they miss me, why don't they just call? So we just sort of talked about like a lot of the reasons of why, with rejection and things like that, are just knowing. And that is such a fair question, because most of us think like, well, if I miss someone, I tell them.
Right.
But for someone with avoidant attachment, it isn't always that simple. Sometimes they don't reach out because of shame. They're embarrassed about how things ended. Sometimes it's pride. Sometimes they assume you've moved on. Sometimes they don't know how to repair because they've never learned how. Sometimes they know they hurt you and they don't believe you'd even want to hear from them. And sometimes nothing has actually changed. They miss you, but they still haven't done the healing necessary to create a different relationship. And that's important because people often confuse missing someone with changing. They're not the same thing.
I think that's where so many people get stuck because we tell ourselves if they miss me enough, they would come back. Do you think they have the capacity of even thinking that honestly they care so much about you? We talked about this cycle, and maybe that goes with the shame that they would love to, but like you were saying, they know nothing has changed on their end. So by even coming back, maybe they feel like it's less hurtful to kind of not come back than to come back and just hurt you repeatedly. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely possible. I mean, yeah, maybe they have done enough reflection to say, I haven't done any healing work. So I don't really know, but possibly.
yeah. And I don't know if this is the right word because I don't mean this in a way that seems demeaning or anything, but that maybe at some point they don't think they're good enough for you, maybe kind of that cycle too, like I'm just going to keep hurting you. So it's just, it's not that they don't want, like you say, it's not that they don't want to be in a relationship. So they may end up being with somebody else that same pattern is going to start, but maybe they always feel like it's a clean slate to start with somebody else until that cycle starts again. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely is. That's
Yeah.
like, because when you get close to somebody and you really start caring about them, of course, then that intimacy grows and that's where the fear kicks in for them and that's where they pull back. So, yes, if they go to a new relationship where there isn't the intimacy. So at first it feels great, because there's not really a connection. Like nothing is triggering them. You know what I'm saying? When they really care, I think they can start to think, I shouldn't feel like this. If this is my person, I shouldn't be like all triggered like this and feeling like I want to pull away and looking at this person over here. That person over there is just a distraction. That
All
person,
shiny and new.
yes, that person over there isn't triggering you yet because they haven't got close enough yet. But when you have real connection again, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is one of the hardest truths to accept. So talking about if they do come back or if they don't come back, sometimes they do come back. Sometimes, like you were saying, like, do you think they see like, oh, nothing's changed? And as much as I know what else I was going to say about what you asked me, like there was a couple questions in there. So let me see if I can try to remember them. So they, yes, they could possibly be like, I know I haven't really done anything different, so I'm not going to reach out. Or, and we're going to get into this, they might think enough time has passed and want to reconnect because they do care about you. And then the other thing you said about maybe they don't think they're worthy of you. Absolutely. I believe they have very low self-worth. And so they can very much think, I don't deserve you. You deserve better than this. Maybe even thinking you don't deserve the stuff I'm doing, or you don't deserve who I am as a person. Because I think that there's low self-worth there and low self-confidence too. So anyways, but sometimes they do come back. But when they do, it's important to pay attention to how they show up. Avoidants often want to come back and act like nothing happened. They do not like conflict. They don't like accountability. They don't always know how to repair. So instead of addressing the past, they might send a casual text, something like, hey, stranger, a quick holiday text, or a, how have you been? Maybe they react to your social media posts or start watching your stories again. It's a low effort way of testing the waters without having to step into a difficult conversation.
The infamous breadcrumb.
Yes, absolutely. And I have experienced this.
Mhm.
I've experienced those low effort texts that happen over and over again to gauge whether or not it's safe to come back again. And I think that is what makes it so confusing. Those little messages that can make you think, see, maybe they do miss me. And they might. But missing you still isn't the same as being willing to repair what was broken. And this is where we have to be really honest with ourselves. If we keep responding to those low effort messages, if we allow someone to slide back into our lives without accountability, we're teaching them what we'll accept. We're showing them they don't have to repair anything. They don't have to acknowledge the hurt. They don't have to grow. And without realizing it, we can end up enabling the same patterns that hurt us in the first place. So instead of asking, did they come back? I think the better question is, how did they come back? Was it simply, hey, stranger? Or was it something more like any of these examples? I've been doing a lot of thinking. I realize how I handled things. I know I hurt you. I've started therapy. I've been reading. I'm trying to understand my patterns. I don't expect anything from you, but I'd really like the opportunity to talk. Those are two very different conversations. One is looking for comfort. The other is taking responsibility. And that distinction matters a lot. Because even if they come back, that does not automatically mean the relationship will be different. Healthy relationships aren't built simply because someone misses you. They're built because both people are willing to grow. They're willing to communicate even when it's uncomfortable. They're willing to repair after conflict. They're willing to take ownership instead of blaming. They're willing to become more vulnerable, even if it doesn't come naturally. None of us does those things perfectly. We all bring wounds into relationships.
Absolutely.
We all have things we're still healing. But healthy relationships happen when two people are both saying, I don't have this all figured out, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to grow. And I'm willing to keep showing up. I actually think that's what people are looking for, what everybody's looking for, not perfection, progress, humility. Someone who isn't just saying they want a healthy relationship, but who's actively taking steps to build one. Kelly, I'd love to hear like your thoughts on that because I think so many people think that they have to find someone who's completely healed before they can have a healthy relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think you feel like if you don't have it all together, you're just bringing baggage or dysfunction or all that into the relationship that's just going to kind of make it more difficult.
We heal in relationships too. So that's why we're not looking for perfection, or we're looking for the progress and the humility and knowing that we heal inside of relationships as well. And healthy relationships hold a mirror up to us. They expose our fears, our triggers, our insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that two people are willing to work through those things together instead of running from them. So when that mirror is being held up, just think about it like this. Like, so say for somebody, if you're showing up somewhat secure and again, not perfect, but secure, healthy, and you're holding a mirror to them. And if someone's not willing to do the work, they look at that and they can't handle looking at the reflection. They can't handle what you expose in themselves that they feel about themselves, not what you're making them feel,
Mm-hmm.
but what they feel about themselves on the inside. And they can't handle looking at the reflection. So that's why they leave. So that's what I'm saying. The important thing is when two people are willing to do the work, they work through those things together. They're still going to experience them. You know, we're going to still have things trigger us and insecurities, but we don't run from them.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions on social media right now. There are so many videos trying to answer when will they come back? What does it mean if they viewed my story? What does it mean if they liked my picture?
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly think we're asking the wrong questions. The better question is, first of all, if they came back today, would anything actually be different? Not, do they miss me? But are they showing up differently than they did before? So if they do come back, if they do reach out, are they doing it in a different way? And are they showing up differently, you know? Because if nothing has changed, you're simply stepping back into the same cycle. And that's not healing. it honestly makes me think of two different quotes when I was working on this, and I jotted them down. One of them, and I love both of these. If nothing changes, nothing changes. The other one, and I'm sure you've heard it, Kelly. I'm sure you've heard both of these. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We can't say every avoidant misses their ex. We can't say every avoidant comes back. People are individuals. Our goal isn't to tell you what your ex is thinking. Like, I know all that stuff on social media, all those, like, sort of like clickbait, because you desperately want answers. I know you do, but that is not our goal here. Our goal is to help you understand common patterns so that you can stop carrying blame that doesn't belong to you. Kelly, I'm curious, like, what would you say to someone who's been maybe they've been waiting months, hoping they'll finally hear from the person? Honestly, I've even seen comments where people are like, some of them maybe waiting years, hoping that they'll finally hear from that person they loved.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the first thing I think is love yourself enough to not do that. Because life is short. Life is short. And gosh, I mean, and I've been there, and I think that's, I don't know if this is the right word, because I don't, you and I, we never mean anything that would ever make our listeners feel less than or anything like that. But it's very sad. And I've been there. I've been there waiting for that text and call and all that stuff. But it's so damaging, and it's so much time lost in your own life to find happiness. But again, all these things, these tools, all these things are such a better reflection. Like you say, like, what if they do come back? But to the other things that you said, like, but have they changed? So I love your questions of the flip side of that. Not like just the questions of heart healing or desperation, but really like, what does that look like? What does that look like to me for a healthy relationship, So,
yeah. And I think that you also got to ask yourself, and I get it. I think you and I have I for sure have been there before where you wonder, like, are they ever going to come back? Do they miss me? Do they think about me? Of course, I get that, and I have so much compassion for that.
absolutely.
But we can also say we can miss people and also say, I deserve more than this. And allow yourself to do not wait for somebody. I would say, do not wait for somebody to give you closure. You give yourself closure.
Yeah.
You
Because
say,
if you think they give it to you, is it sincere? And you're right. I think you never, because even if it is closure, if it's not what you want to hear, you're still not going to feel closure.
exactly. I love that. Yes. So you absolutely have to just be able to give it to yourself. And I think, well, it is completely natural to wonder whether someone misses you. We do not want that question to keep you stuck. We want healing for you.
Mm-hmm.
We want peace for you.
Mm.
We want relationships where you don't have to constantly wonder how someone feels, where love isn't confusing, where consistency replaces uncertainty,
Right.
where repair follows conflict, where emotional safety becomes normal. And I sort of want to shift gears here a little bit. If you're the avoidant listening today I would love to just speak to you for a minute. I know people often talk about avoidance like you're the villain in every story, but I don't believe that's true. I don't think you wake up wanting to hurt people. I think somewhere along the way, you learned that closeness wasn't always safe. Maybe you learned to depend on yourself because it felt like the only option. Maybe vulnerability felt too risky. Maybe pulling away became the only way you knew how to protect yourself. And if that's your story, first, I want to say, I'm so sorry for that. I'm so sorry that that is what you learned. But I also want you to know that there is hope. And the fact that you're still listening tells me part of you wants something different. If you're still here right now listening this far into the episode, and the patterns that once protected you don't have to define the rest of your life. Healing is possible. You can learn to stay in conversations that feel uncomfortable. You can learn to repair after conflict. You can learn that needing people isn't weakness. You can learn that vulnerability doesn't always end in rejection. And maybe the next time you feel yourself wanting to pull away, instead of asking, how do I get out of this? Pause for just a moment. Ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I stay? What am I protecting myself from? And I think this one is a really good question. Is this person actually unsafe? Or does being vulnerable simply feel unsafe? Those questions aren't easy, but they're the kinds of questions that begin changing your life. And if you're willing to stay curious, if you're willing to take ownership, if you're willing to ask for help, I truly believe you can find the kind of relationship you've always wanted. Not because you'll become perfect, but because you'll finally stop running from the very thing your heart has been longing for all along. And if you're the person who's been wondering whether an avoidant misses you, here's what I hope you remember after today's conversation. Yes, many of them probably do. But don't let that become your reason to stay stuck. Because whether they miss you or not, the question that will shape your future is this: are they willing to show up differently? Are they willing to do the work? Are they willing to build something healthier than what existed before? Because missing someone is a feeling. A healthy relationship is built through choices, through consistency, through honesty, through repair. Also through mutual effort. Please do not confuse longing with healing. Don't confuse regret with growth. And don't settle for someone's potential when what you deserve is their participation. Secure love isn't about wondering where you stand. It's about knowing. It's about feeling emotionally safe. It's about two imperfect people who keep choosing each other. They keep growing together and they keep repairing when they fall short. Because we're going to fall short. And that is the kind of love every one of us deserves. Kelly, do you have any final thoughts around any of that?
I think this is not just a one and done, even to listen. I mean, this can be an aha, if this is like the first episode somebody's listening to. I think it can be very eye-opening. But I think it is it's a process. So I think just know that anyway, I hope this does resonate with people, at least to maybe step back and kind of look at a relationship they're in, or if it's the dismissive avoidant, like you said, to kind of see maybe their patterns to change. And I think I was thinking about this too, because it feels like the person on the receiving end is the only one that's hurting. And the dismissive avoidant can also be because maybe they're like, again, so down on themselves because they're like, here's another relationship that I just can't get it right. What is wrong with me? And there's nothing wrong with you. These are just patterns that we've learned from childhood, or maybe just a relationship that you got in that maybe it wasn't your childhood. Maybe it was just a relationship that you got in that you got into a relationship with that person and then you saw triggers. But I think just always do that soul searching and always, like you say, we all deserve love. And it is easier to run. Sometimes I'm a runner. And it's hard because when something feels uncomfortable, a pair of pants, pants that are too tight, a shirt, whatever, anything that feels uncomfortable, we want to get out of that, right? We want to just totally like abandon ship. But and you saying when you're in a relationship, that you think you're imperfect, maybe you're not good enough or whatever, but you're so right, that seeing that mirror. And if you really are in a relationship with two people who are trying to get it right, because if you don't, and you go into another relationship, if you've not healed, you're going to take all that baggage with you. And so to stay in the fight, I mean, that's difficult sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's really hard.
Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. If this conversation resonated with you, we'd love to know. Tell us in the comments what stood out to you or what helped you the most. Or if you have another question, we'd love to help answer some of those. We read the comments, and many of the future episodes come directly from questions that you've asked. If you know someone who's been wondering whether an avoidant ever misses them, share this episode with them. We hope it brings them clarity, but even more than that, we hope it brings them peace. If these conversations have helped you feel a little less alone or have helped you better understand yourself and your relationships, we'd love to have you be a part of our community by subscribing. That way you don't miss an episode and you help us to reach other people who need to hear these conversations. As always, we send you off with so much love, and we'll see you next time on Breaking the Silence.